Okay, good. Anya, I actually put it on my checklist of like things to say after last month. I'm like, we have our standard now.
And Ben mentioned that
There's some
holidays,
there's some basketball.
yeah. Aside from holidays, this is one of the least productive days at work. So we appreciate all of you coming.
Yeah.
Maybe you're watching the games at the same time. That's okay.
That's okay.
Nobody would ever multitask work and basketball on today's day.
No, especially since we're recording now. So no one would ever do that. We are very all hardworking individuals. Um, Before this digresses anymore on a Friday, let's kick this off. I'd like to thank everyone for coming in and competing with all the other stuff that's going on this Friday. We have a very exciting topic for you where we're going to be talking about all things social media. So this is a hot topic, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about it. That is fine, and we respect and want those. So if you have anything you want to add or talk about as well, put it in the chat. Let me see your face. Come off mute. You're more than welcome to. This is really an open forum for everybody on the call today. So without further ado, I'd like to say a big thank you to our two founding uh, members, the ERP CRM software blog and the partner marketing group. They help us, keep things going and have been there since the get-go. Ask questions. This is really an hour for you. Sharing is caring. So we're all in this together in one way, shape, or form. So by all means, ask away. And then finally, Anya will be monitoring the chat. So if I miss a question that's going by, she'll come in and poke. So, and if we don't get to it right away, she will keep me on track. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our three panelists today. We have Ben, Miranda, and Amma. I'm going to, full disclosure, I will muff that up at some point during this hour. My apologies in advance. So how about we all just take a minute to introduce ourselves, and then we can kick this party off. So Ben, how about you start us off?
Yeah, definitely. I can go. Thanks for having me today. My name is Ben Cole. I'm the president over at ERP Connect. We're the creators behind the Business Central Toolbox, which is an ISV product. And currently we actually have 36 different kind of gap filler productivity automation type solutions for Business Central. So happy to talk about what's worked and kind of how social media has helped us grow our brand today, and just looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Thanks. Miranda?
Hi, Miranda. I am from TMC. We are a VAR, so we take care of all the business solutions by Microsoft. I'm the content marketing specialist here for over 3 years. I've been in the marketing space for 6 years, and I'm excited to dive into the social media with you guys.
Looking forward to it. And last but definitely not least, Amma?
Yes, and I'm Amma, and I work at Solver, and I've been in the ERP industry for just over 5 years now, doing social media marketing and events prior, and now I'm the senior integrated marketing manager here at Solver. Solver is an ISV, and we play in the Acumatica, Microsoft, Sage, Oracle. I'm sure I'm forgetting some off the top of my head, but we're across lots of different ERPs. And yeah, I'm excited to get into everything today with you all.
Thanks for coming and taking some time to talk to us today. So my first question for you all is, what is your current favorite platform, professional, personal, and why? So Miranda, how about you kick us off?
Yeah, professionally, I love LinkedIn. We use it for TMC, so I like it because I can get some updates on our competitors and even our customers. We have a lot of showcase pages on LinkedIn too, so I've been using that a lot to do a lot of my research. And personally, I love YouTube. It's basically like a free educational platform with how-tos and tips, and I also use it for keyword searches. So yeah, I use it professionally too. So I could say LinkedIn and YouTube, both. I use it at the same time.
That's cool. What about you, Amma?
I would say professionally LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn reigns supreme in especially our ERP space. I don't really think there's any that could compete in my mind. I love LinkedIn. I feel like it's a great place to connect with customers, partners, and prospects. I see like the most communication on LinkedIn with comments and responses, especially in our partner community as well through LinkedIn. So I really love that for the communication aspect and the community building aspect, because we know how tight knit our little ERP community is on the internet. Personally, I bounce between quite a few. I love Instagram just for connecting with friends from high school and college. But I also love TikTok, similar than to Miranda, for I love watching recipe videos on TikTok and how-to videos. We recently renovated our house and I learned so much on TikTok, so I really enjoy that platform.
That's cool. And last but not least, Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree professionally. LinkedIn has to be number one in my book. And I think the big thing for me that it comes down to is the authenticity factor, right? I feel like, and we'll probably get into this later, but just being able to kind of express your personal voice, which is much different than sending an email or a mail blast or something like that, which are pretty cookie cutter, right? I found a lot of success on LinkedIn by kind of being my authentic self and being passionate about Business Central specifically, which is obviously the realm that we play in. And then also just connecting with others professionally. I've met a ton of folks that I've worked with now that I've met on LinkedIn, right? I've never met them in person. And then when I do meet them in person, it just makes it that much better. I even met someone a couple months ago who's also named Ben Cole, who does Business Central. That was probably the best LinkedIn connection. We just did a deal together last week. So like things like that are just very cool on LinkedIn. And then I'll say YouTube as well, both for professional and personal. If I need to learn something, I go to YouTube first, right? Like I'll look up a video, whether it's for Business Central, how to do something, or how to fix something at my house, right? That I've never done before. I feel like YouTube's a great platform for both of those. And then just purely from a personal standpoint, I would agree on Instagram. I try to not use any social media personally, but from a marketing standpoint, some of those Instagram ads just get me lately. But one, I got an ad and I actually downloaded it. It was a tool. So it ended up being for work, and I actually ended up using it for step by step. So
why did I want to
those are my favorites. Oh,
I think you're good. We
but
muted
that's all
whoever
I've
it
got. I
was.
think just somebody needs to get muted. Yeah, all good.
Great. And I think I kind of had a hunch that LinkedIn was going to be the fan favorite here from a professional standpoint. But for me, the personal is also important because we're still human, right? And as much as our work life, we are like, oh, it's a 9 to 5 thing. It is. And like in the evenings, if we're scrolling something and we see something, our brain can move on to other things. So I think that's why it's important to know, okay, professional Tanya, this is her voice, but personal Tanya also uses this as their means of researching and stuff like that. And PSA, my friend is an electrician and he's like, always read the comments before if you're doing any of that, because some people will wait in the comments that wasn't a good idea when you're doing DIY stuff. So,
I do that on both TikTok and YouTube before I use any tips about DIY, because then you'll have like a 30-year electrician comment on someone's video and be like, this is not right.
exactly. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is not safe. So,
Well, and there's a lot of people who are just trying to like troll people on the internet that will purposely put false things out there, trying to get people to that gives some people joy for some reason. So yeah, you always got to read the comments and look at the views and that kind of thing to see how reputable it is for sure.
yeah. So keep that in mind. Not anything to do with ERP, but it might, because maybe you're how to create a new company in Business Central, read the comments first as well, because some people might be like, this will blow up your system. So, food for thought. Moving on to our next question is, what is one platform that didn't work for you? I think we're really good in saying like, hey, this is awesome. What is one that maybe you tried, because that's what we do in marketing. We'll try a whole lot of other things, but it was a fast, ooh, this is not going to work for me. And Coley went suivant next. So, Ben, what about you? Do you have any that didn't work out for you?
Yeah, I would say Twitter probably. I've tried Twitter a lot in the past. I guess X now, whatever you want to call it, right? But I don't know if that's because of the platform or I just wasn't consistent enough with it, which is interesting that nobody said it was their favorite platform. So that makes me feel a little bit better that I'm not completely missing the boat there. But I've heard a lot of people talk about Twitter in the past and give really positive reviews about it. And I don't know where they're getting that from, because even when I see other people posting on Twitter, they're not getting a lot of retweets or a lot of comments or a lot of likes. It seems like a very niche or small community. So maybe it does well there, but I've just never had any luck with it. And again, I'm not consistent with it. So I know there's variability on everything, and not to say that Twitter's the problem. I might be the problem with Twitter. I don't know. But I've never had any luck with it. And I've not invested more of my time into it, just because going all in on LinkedIn, I feel like, has been the highest ROI for me. So I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but just kind of the spreading yourself thin aspect. I'm sure I know it's a long conversation, so I'll hold that for the end, but my short answer is Twitter.
All right. What about you, Miranda? I see in the chat there are some X/Twitter users out there, but what about you? What is
Yeah. Yes, I agree with Ben. We could post it consistently on Twitter for years, actually, before I even started at TMC. And even then, we didn't really get much engagement. I continued it, but then I just felt like also the analytics weren't very accurate either. And so now when I try to even go into Twitter to look at their analytics, they're making me pay a premium just to look at the analytics. So that's something that we're not really using anymore. I'm still posting it because I use HelpSpot sometimes, and so I do just post it anyway. But then when it comes down to looking at the engagement, it's not really getting any like return on investment. Another platform that hasn't worked is Instagram. I mean, I mainly used it for branding, but really I feel like a lot of our people, or at least are there other competitors who aren't really on there? No one's really posting on there. So it's mainly just to put ourselves on that platform, just to show that, we are on here. But yeah, Twitter and Instagram, I don't think works.
I'd
and
actually in as
sorry, go.
well. I agree with both of you. Twitter was really popular in the ERP space in 2020. We were all on there thriving in our remote worlds for like a little bit, but then it kind of, I think, fell off after COVID. Kind of everyone went back to conferences, and it was never a large lead generation, but it was really great for partner communication. Twitter used to be like really popular, I think, for partner communication, which it sounds like maybe some of you still are. I stopped using it personally for partner communication. So we don't post at all. We have no presence on Twitter currently. Same with Instagram. We don't post on Instagram. Similar, because it was more, I liked it because I like Instagram. So I was like, oh, it's, we make some cute posts. It's very nice for us to have a presence, but no one was ever viewing our profile. But for me, Facebook is actually my least favorite platform. I feel like we have spent, before I joined Solver, and before my boss, Liz Anderson, joined Solver, they were really heavy on Facebook. And we came in and we were looking at their analytics from the last few years, and all of the leads were not true leads. They were all Gmails. They were people who were potentially bots or just like clicking through random ads. Our community is all on there, but in their personal life. So even if they were seeing our stuff, they're like, that's work. I'm not working right now. Like I want to just see my friends' grandkids or whatever the case may be. So we fully stopped using Facebook this year. We stopped as soon as I started, we closed down all of our ads and stopped just putting any money into Facebook for that reason as well. I just feel like it's not the space for B2B, even though everyone is on there.
And I think all of you bring super good points to, you got to try it. And if you're not seeing an engagement, put your money and your time where you're really seeing it. So good to know. Like I said, it might be different for other people. I see other people in the chat where X works well at conferences, or if they're using it on a regular basis, that could be interesting too, to follow the hashtags that way. So I think it comes down to knowing your audience, testing it out, and then making a conscious decision after that, going yay, nay. But I think this is a good barometer because where I work too, we've seen that with X, is we used to do it, and over time, like getting out of our 2020 remote, whatever that was, and coming back to reality, I think us two, we've kind of put a stop to that. So I think that's a good benchmark for everyone who's on the call today. So I think that falls nicely into, what metrics do you measure? What works? What do you consider a successful metric? Because in the end, everyone can say, Tanya, you said this already, but marketing is a science and an art. So we need to have the math do its mathing while we try things out and put cute pictures of pets on the internet. So, Amma, how about you start us off? What kind of metrics do you look at?
I think it really depends in the season of where we're at in our company. I think we tend to look at different metrics depending on what kind of growth season that we're in. For us right now, I'm really focusing on engagement and conversion. When I came into Solver, the former marketing, we had a marketing, my brain just
Person.
made the word, like a contractor who was running all of our marketing before, and she was really focused on follower count. But as soon as I came in, I kind of switched it because I was noticing our follower count was increasing. She was doing a great job. However, I was noticed that we had almost no engagement from anyone outside of our like top partners and our employees. And so now we're really focused on engagement. So we're looking at likes, we're looking at shares, reposts, specifically reposts by non-employees. We're also looking at trying to increase comments, and then of course click-through ratio and conversions. How many people are actually coming to sign up for a webinar that we post on LinkedIn? How many people are actually downloading that white paper they clicked on? So we're just really focusing on conversion and engagement right now.
Oh, that's good. And it's super important for us as marketers to know too, what season are we in, or what is our current focus and goals, so that we can track. And it's okay for it to change or evolve with time. Once we're like, yeah, we got this, it's time to move on to the next step. And for you, Ben, what are some of the metrics that you track from a social media perspective?
I mean, I think the conversion is obviously the most important, but I also think sometimes it's the hardest to track, especially depending on how high your volume is. So kind of looking at it from the flip side, one of the main things that we're looking at on LinkedIn is just the overall impressions, right? Like how many people is this getting to, whether they liked it or commented it or reshared it or not, is not as important, but we do track all of that as well. Like we're tracking literally everything. We're probably going kind of overboard with that because, again, what do we do with that data? But trying to analyze kind of what went well with those posts that had high impressions or got a lot of likes, or a lot of people are interacting, engaging, and commenting on, because obviously that helps get on other people's feeds and second and third connections and things like that. But we're really trying to track all of it and then double down on what goes well. And again, I've found that what does the best is more of those kind of personal voice type things, or authentic things. Like I did a roadshow event the other week and posted something about my presentation and photos from the event with a crowd and me speaking and things like that. And that's been one of my best posts this year, just since I think people can relate to it. And then some of the posts that do the worst are where I'm like, hey, here's a product we made, you should buy it because it does these three things, right? Like nobody cares about that unless they're at this time ready to buy or have a need, right? Where it's more relatable, some of those other things. And then on YouTube, obviously the views, right? Like we're trying to see how many views, and not only the total views, but the view growth over time, right? So if, the best video I have is 4 years old because it's 4 years old. Obviously a video I did last month isn't going to have as many views, but is that video from 4 years ago ramping at the same level as a video I posted recently, or maybe a newer video on Copilot is getting exponentially more views because it's about a hot topic now, right? So looking at both total views as well as view growth over, a certain timetable, because all of our time is limited. So trying to maximize the ROI on the time we're spending on those materials, right? If we're doing all this work and nobody's looking at it, then what's it worth, right? But on the flip side, everybody starts with nothing, and you have to be consistent for at least a year or two before you're going to see any return, right? And a lot of people just give up, right? So I would just say, for anybody getting started, just keep going and posting good content, and eventually, it'll pay off.
Yeah, no, I think that message of like keep going, don't get discouraged when a certain post outperforms. Like for me on Monday, that my dog wearing a St. Patrick's Day outfit outweighed every other post I have done in the last 3 months. But luckily she's very cute, so I don't blame her. But I got a question from Kate that just came in. Do you think those product posts are important to post anyway? So even if, do we have to have this balance in our lives, even though we know that Mila the Porty outweighs any other post that goes on in someone's life?
Yeah, I think there needs to
I
be
think so.
both,
Oh,
right? Like, oh, sorry. I think there needs to be a mixture of both, right? Product and some personal stories to just show your branding, like so you can connect with your audience. So yeah, I really think that there needs to be a balance for sure.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that. Basically, the product post for us as a company, right? Because I'm not only representing myself, I'm representing our company, are important to make sure that people are getting knowledge on what we're creating, and for the right people seeing those, it's going to resonate. And we do get, I have sold things or gotten engagement off of LinkedIn based on the product post, of course, because somebody sees it and goes, hey, I had no clue you even had that. Thanks for posting that LinkedIn really quick and succinct, right? I didn't have to watch a 30-minute video. I just read 5 bullet points, and 4 of those bullet points are exactly what I need. Can we talk further on it, right? So I would say even if that LinkedIn post gets one person to engage with it, making a LinkedIn post for one sale is well worth the time and the energy spent on it. So yeah, I think the variety in general, whether it be personal, professional, product, company, right? Like mixing it up as well. If you're just constantly posting the same thing like every week about your dog, for example, right? People are eventually going to be like, okay, I don't want to see the dog anymore, even though we love the dog, right? Same goes with the product. It's just people, I think that's the algorithm on social media these days. Like people just need different stuff all the time. There's so much like stimulation on these sites that's what gets the views, right? So.
Well, and I think I totally agree, but I also think that the product posts, we always talk about in marketing like touches, right? Like how many touches until they start to actually actually have a conversion. And so, for example, the product posts are just another touch. And honestly, as an ISV, I can only speak from an ISV perspective. I've never worked at a VAR, but from an ISV perspective, the most personal things that we're going to see engagement on are going to be our employees' personal posts, not ours. If we tag a ton of our employees and a ton of people in our posts from our company, of course, that's going to get more engagement because it's pushing out to other people's feeds. However, we've been really focusing lately. We're making a guide currently for our employees to start resharing ours and then sharing their own thoughts and ideas along with it more. And really trying to up our employee engagement, especially from our sales team and our partner team, because you guys are totally right. The personal stuff does the best, but those product posts are what what really establish you as a thought leader in your industry and also as a company. If someone's looking to buy, they're gonna go to your LinkedIn, they're gonna scroll back and they're gonna look at all the things that you're posting and they're gonna want to see all that information.
I That's so true. In the world of using our employees as influencers or however you want to call them, we'll get to that in a little bit. But such a piece that we have to kind of train people on because as marketers, we're used to knowing what we should say or not say in a post, whereas some others who might not be as comfortable might a guide is a great idea to share internally there. Two other questions. I mentioned to you guys this might be a heavy question month. So have any of you done any training on LinkedIn to know about the algorithm and nuances, or do you just learn as you go?
I learn as I go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I learn as I go.
yeah, I go on YouTube. Like I said earlier, I use YouTube as a great like educational like platform. There's plenty of gurus on there that will talk about the most recent algorithms on these platforms. But yeah, I use like TikTok, even Instagram, everything just to like get my mind creative and like understanding what the trends are and incorporating that onto our company pages, obviously in a more professional and within our branding. But yeah, it's basically very natural to just be in the know with everything that's going on.
I have done some formal LinkedIn training in the past, but I found I think it's great. The LinkedIn training programs are really great, especially if you are coming in with like a base zero knowledge about social media marketing or the platform itself. It's really great. The LinkedIn trainings are really great for learning how to read LinkedIn's metrics and stats on the back end because it can sometimes be confusing when you're first starting out, and especially with paid, because we do some paid digital on LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn trainings that they provide, they're free, they're great, love them. However, when it comes to specifically you asked about to know about the algorithm is forever changing. So that I do tend to just learn on the go. I like to watch some TikToks about it, or I like to see I like to go stalk our competitors or our favorite partners. I have some of our partners that are always my inspo. I always go and I'm like, what are they doing? Because they're always super on trend. So I love to go look at what other people are doing as far as the algorithm goes. Nuances, I definitely feel like you have to learn as you go because every company is so different. And we're such a product heavy space. So like, everybody's product's a little bit different. Some of our products are a little more boring than other people's products too. So trying to make something more fun is sometimes, your own personal challenge at your own company.
I hear you there. I think, well, all of us in this space know how exciting ERP software is and um, how expensive accounting can be. So we all feel that pain, and yeah, there's some people who I definitely use to as inspo as well, and I'm glad you guys do the same. Other question that came in was. What kinds of product posts are you getting the most traction for each of you? Graphics, downloads, carousels, all the above, none of the above. Um, anyone want to?
Graphics. I think graphics and maybe some short form videos seem to do well. I've tried the carousels. Maybe I'm not doing them right, but I haven't gotten like a ton of feedback on those. Average, nothing bad, nothing great on the carousels. And yeah, like a fun little picture. I will say the AI pictures now I think are kind of getting old. A lot of like I think a month or two ago, like those are getting a lot of engagement, but now they kind of are starting to all look the same. I know I've played around with a few of them myself, like we said, trial and error and a lot of this stuff, but either like a actual graphic that we created that wasn't AI generated, or just like a short 30-second video. We've been doing a lot of short little videos, and people have seemed to like those for products specifically. Like, hey, in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to tell you 2 key features of this product. Like everybody can listen to 30 seconds, right? And then they know how long they're in for, and they know what we're going to be talking about. So if they're interested, they can just, spend 30 seconds and listen to it real quick.
Think
Mine's a little bit different from Ben's. Our graphics don't do as well, unless it's a
No.
meme or something like that. So memes do really well for us. Also carousel, I'm starting to do more carousels. I feel like because it's a LinkedIn feature, they're pushing out those posts more. So we've been seeing a better traffic on like newsletters and the carousels. Yeah.
Well, I'm learning something from you, Miranda. I'm gonna have to try that for some of our newsletters. We noticed some traction with carousels on paid for LinkedIn, but not so much on our actual organic traffic. I think graphics do okay. We've just recently like revamped how we're doing our graphics on social because I feel like ours were just getting boring for people to look at probably. So we redid it. And I always joke that they're just now I make a lot of moving pictures. They're just GIFs, but like it's a graphic. It's a typical graphic that has text on it, but the background moves instead of is still. We're playing around with new things and it seems to be working well for us. I do think videos, like Ben said, I know we're going to talk about trends later, but I do think videos are becoming more and more a thing just across all platforms. So right now we're just trying to figure out what our strategy for the videos will be and how we're going to do it because sometimes clips work and sometimes they don't. So we're trying to figure out what we want to do for our video content moving forward.
And I like that, just, having an image that moves. I think we've all become like, ooh, shiny thing, and look at whatever thing that can move a little bit. And I know for me, getting people to ask them to do a 30-second clip, everyone seems to disappear and is unavailable or super busy on billable work when I ask for that. So I like that tip. That's like, I can do things from a marketing perspective without, getting too many technical people involved who do not want to be on camera for any amount of money that you want to throw at them,
We're
or
just
free coffee.
asking people to do a 30-second video. They have to get ready for it. They have to like do their hair, put on makeup, or if you're, to get up dressed up a little bit. They don't want to do that all the time. We have some really great people at our company who are willing to do that, but we really gotta prep those kind of in bulk, I feel. So you really have to put some thought into that beforehand for us, just because the little clips from the webinars sometimes do well and sometimes they don't. So
And sometimes it's just a bit of like what day of the week it is and who liked what at what time. Or so I think as much as we want to say like we have the ultimate recipe for it, you still got to try it a couple times to see really a trend, what works and what doesn't. Not so much trend as in, this is how we see the future kind of thing. Um, but I love that the chat is busy and people are talking, and we're talking about authenticity, which is a very important topic to me. And I think one of the big things of what makes things work and not work in our space as well. So keep that going. And while that is going on, I'm going to have a quick commercial break. And this is to say thank you to our patron sponsors, OMSI, UST Pay, and Marketeeri. They help us keep the lights on here, keep this channel free for all of us to enjoy. Think of all the money you guys are saving by not having to go to do these trainings, or try to convince your boss to pay for these trainings. You get them free here with the CMA group. So thank you so much for being a supporter, and we appreciate you. And all three of us for the first time will be at Directions for the first time in 5 years. So come find us, take a group shot with us. We will be more than happy to share that with all of you afterwards. So, and if this is my shameless plug, if any of you want to become a sponsor, go check us out on our website, and it's really not expensive. It's less than a pair of shoes. Well, maybe a pair of shoes that I would buy. But go check it out. We would appreciate any support that we can have for this community. So that was my pitch. Now we can go back to our regularly scheduled program. We kind of touched upon it a bit. We were tiptoeing around it with videos, influencer marketing. So how do you do it? How do you bribe people? Where do you manage it? How do you manage it? Um, Miranda, let me start with you on this one. How have you attacked this beast?
Yeah, so we use our employees as influencers, obviously, as we stated earlier. They know us best. They can advocate for our company without sounding too corporate-y. I've been working with some of our senior leadership team to build their personal brand on their pages, and which, will also tie in with our company too. Each month, we get together and we talk about we go over the content pillars and subtopics to highlight for the next month. I create like a set of templates and prompts for them to use easily so that they can come up with ideas. And then we meet and then we talk about, I get it recorded and basically draft them a copy and then they can use it and schedule it. We're building that right now. I've been doing it for a couple of people and it's been paying off lately for brand awareness, for recruitment. And we even we even got some leads from it too, which is great. And then for employees, I would basically every time there's a post from an employee or from our company page, I would notify our teams to let them know, this is posted, you should interact with it, comment on it, and drive that interaction within the first like 30 minutes, because I know the first 30 minutes is really crucial for LinkedIn. So yeah, it's been a really great strategy so far. So yeah, I really recommend everyone to do that with their employees.
And how did you pick, if you like selfishly asking now, like, or asking for a friend, but how did you pick who was going to be these influencers? Was it people you're like, oh, I think you'd be great, or did you did you need some kind of horsing? Were they open to starting it on themselves? Like, how did you
Yeah,
corral these people in?
if you know Roland, he's the marketing manager and he's very big on, personal branding for employees. So we did want to start up with people who've been with a company for a long time or people who are in the leadership team because, they've been here for a while. So they'll have nothing but good things to say about us, So, and we also look for people with a large network too. So leveraging that large network to expand our reach was really important. So yeah, that's how we chose our influencers.
No, that's good to know. Yeah, because you need that mix of people who know what they're doing and also people who have that reach, because let's call a spade a spade. That's ultimately why we're doing this, right? So,
Yeah.
thanks. And Ben, what about you? Sorry, Aman, what about you? What does your influencer marketing look like?
I was just gonna say that similar to Miranda, I think employees are like really an untapped resource at a lot of companies just because they have a network and like I said earlier, this ERP network is not that big. It feels big, but it's not that big. And we've all been at multiple other companies and our networks are large. Most of ours just from, it's such a tight little ERP family, if you will. So I think using your employees is great. And I always laugh because at every company I've been in at this space, there's always like a natural influencer. There's like someone who always gets volunteered to be the speaker for something. There's someone who always is the speaker at the events or something like that. Or maybe there's a couple of them, but there's always like someone who accidentally becomes the face of your company. And utilizing them is a huge resource for us. And trying to build up people who are maybe just starting to become that for your company, I think is important too, even if they don't have a large network yet per se. Trying to kind of give them that credibility, I think helps them, but it also helps us as well. And it takes a little bit of the pressure off of our, the person who always gets to be the face of the company. They don't have to do it all the time. So I think that works really well. As far as like traditional influencer marketing, obviously it's not the same as like the B2C space, but B2B influencers do exist. And I've worked with some of them in the past. I think they work really well as webinar hosts. I think they work really well as maybe like a guest blog writer or at a previous company, we did like coffee chats and coffee and lunch bites and things like that. They work really great as guests on those. Um, and I do think that it is huge for brand awareness, like Miranda mentioned. I think it's huge for brand awareness. I think it's huge for partner engagement. I don't necessarily see like a huge lead conversion from working with influencers. But I definitely see an uptick in followers and brand awareness from working with those influencers just because of their far reach.
Makes sense. And another question came in. Do you see any MVPs as influencers or partners like a VAR as an influencer for an ISV? Anyone seeing stuff like that?
Absolutely. I think MVPs are our influencers most of the time. I think a lot of people who are our MVPs are who I would consider the ERP influencers, if you will.
Yeah. The Kim Kardashians of the world, you know, I
Yeah, everyone
wish.
knows them. They walk up at all the conferences.
Exactly. No, they are very popular at conferences and stuff like that. So, um, I, but just not an occasional or by chance. Sorry, there's another question. But do you have a strategy for this, a relationship to do this specifically? I don't know if that was
I can just
following
come
another.
off mute and
Okay.
ask Tanya. I'm just
Okay. I was
curious
like,
if
oh,
if there in our channel there really is such a thing. I believe there is. I know there is of maybe not paid by money, but in some other ways, that there's a specific agreement between some MVPs or some partners and ISVs and different things that I will be your influencer kind of a thing. I'm just curious if
I think there's a
anybody has
lot
any
of,
strategy.
yeah. I mean, I know from an ISV standpoint, right, there's always like margins and things like that at play where for partners, right, like we work with TMC, for example, if they sell our product, it's kind of like a commission type deal, right? And I know there's probably a lot of that out there with individuals as well, right? Because we all want to sell our products. We all want to get more business and things like that. And I think it's one thing if somebody's just willing to speak about your product and what you do, just out of the goodness of their heart, because I think what you do is so awesome. But I think there is also some paid stuff out there. I don't have any facts to back that up because I don't do it specifically. Most of what we do is through me, just since we're a very small company. But having worked other places and working with other ISVs and partners, I know there's probably a mix of that out there in one form or another, right?
Yeah, I think partner marketing for us is our primary lead
Yeah.
source. It's our primary driver in general. So those relationships with our partners, you could say they're almost like influencers, but most of the time that partner marketing is key for us. And it doesn't always look, I would say, like an influencer per se, but like Ben said, like they cheer you on, like they cheer you on behind your back, right? Is kind of how I view partner marketing. Is like if you once you create that relationship with them, they are going to engage more with your social. They may even post on your behalf, and I know they post on our behalf. But they're also talking about us behind our back and in the best way. And I think that's like a good form of influencer marketing in its own. But it's through those partner relationships with VARs and with ISVs. I think that having people talk about you well behind your back is the highest form of flattery in our space, and it's the biggest lead conversion for us as well. Partner marketing is where most of our leads come through.
no. I think if we all had people who spoke highly of us behind our back, we would all be very happy folks. But I think that's such an important point too that you're saying is not everything is like me unboxing, whatever latest thing that I had or getting an influencer to do that for you. It's just sharing the good word in the background and that engagement of likes and sharing and posts, which help the algorithm, which helps everything else. So even every little bit counts, and I think we should not be discouraged if it's even if it's a little thing. So that's a good reminder.
And I would agree with your comment, Anya, in the chat that I do view you as an influencer in the space, and as well as Carol and Amy Keenan. And working like Amy Keenan, you know, she created the ISV Society, and like the ISV Society is almost like influencer marketing of its own as well. And working with all of you guys in various different platforms, I think is definitely a great way of our version in our little ERP industry of influencer marketing.
Yeah. No, so if anyone hasn't, you know, snagged the Anya's post about those key influencers, do so and follow them. I think they'd be more than happy to follow you back, as well as they're the kings and queens in this space for that, even though if they won't say it, but we all know it. Ne- I'm like, how do we only have 15 minutes left? I do this every month. You'd think my time management would get better, but it doesn't. One thing to start doing and one thing to stop doing. I think we get into ruts sometimes, or we don't think about new things, or we don't try because what we're doing now is working out well. So, Miranda, one tip for everyone to start doing and stop doing in the social media space, what would you say?
I feel like we touched on it earlier, like
Oh yeah,
employees.
no, we're good. Like you can repeat, you know, someone on their
Yeah,
phone
the
or saying
employees
something.
as influencers. And if you
Yeah,
can't do that right now, I'd say make more of content, make it more fun and relatable. You can use, like I said earlier, use trends from Reels or TikToks and, make it professional still, obviously. I think that will really make you stand out because not a lot of people doing that right now, or a lot of companies are doing that right now. And then stop creating posts only about your company, like make it about how it's going to help your prospect and speak to your prospect more so than like what we are going to do, what we stand for. Yeah, that's basically what I would suggest.
both really good. And we forget sometimes. Sometimes we just need a little reminder of what we should be doing or starting to do. So thank you for that. Ben, do you have any start stop tips for the gang?
Yeah, I think one of the things I touched on earlier, the short form stuff, I hadn't done it in the past. I started doing it a few months ago, and I think like with some of the other platforms people talked about, like TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I know how it works, right? I think it works the same as like Instagram Reels, where you're scrolling through. Same thing on LinkedIn, right? If you can post 20 to 30-second videos and quickly get people's attention, people find themselves scrolling, and they'll just stop and watch, right? And I think that's been something that's been successful for us, and I'd highly recommend doing it if you're not currently doing it. And then the thing I would stop doing is kind of the spreading yourself too thin, right? Like if you only have a certain amount of time allocated to doing marketing, hyper focus on one platform. Maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's the way you do mailings, maybe it's the way you do personal outreach, and really double down on the authenticity, right? But I find that if you do just a little bit of LinkedIn every month, a little bit of Twitter every month, a little bit of Instagram, or like whatever some of these other platforms we're talking about is, it doesn't build the momentum, and you're going to kind of like waste your time across all of these, right? I think it's good to be on multiple platforms, but if you don't have the time, for anybody that's on the call that's like smaller, like like us, I'm looking from a more small business standpoint. Not spreading yourself thin, I think is key. So I would definitely stop doing that, and I've personally stopped doing that, and it's been successful, trying to hyper focus on certain topics or certain things or certain platforms.
I think that's a great tip for everyone, not just for social media, but for life. I think the more we can focus on what we're doing well and not spread ourselves too thin is a 2025 mantra of mine in general. So we'll keep that in mind. Another question, is there a sweet spot on how often to post? I was like, ooh, that's a good question.
I haven't found it yet. I was told 3 times a week when I first started like really trying to do this more consistently. But I found shortly that if you're trying to do it 3 times a week, a lot of the posts later in the week kind of start to fall off, at least from my experience. But also, again, if you are posting and coming up with your own content 3 times a week, it is very hard to be unique, authentic, education, right? Like all of the above. But if you have enough content to post that many times a week and it's awesome, I would say go for it. And I know there's probably people smarter than me on this call for this topic, but that's my personal experience from it. We try to do 1 to 2 times a week now.
Yeah,
That's
I
good to
have to agree, like either 1 or 2, but I also feel like always think quality over quantity. And so
For sure.
if it's you're posting just because you want to reach that like 2, 3 posts and it's like, the information is kind of like whatever, I would say just save it and try to think of a better way to make it more like valuable. Even sometimes when for especially for the personal branding stuff, like posting it once a month, it's the best because I feel like your LinkedIn doesn't really. I think if you post too much, LinkedIn is probably going to feel like, oh, it's kind of repetitive or like you're saying the same things over and over again. So it doesn't feel as valuable for your audience. So yeah, I think quality over quantity is my tip.
Yeah, and I was gonna kind of touch on that in my start stop too, because what I first wrote down, but we've definitely talked about these a lot, was my start was employee advocacy, and my stop was chasing all the platforms just because someone else is. If it does, it's probably not necessarily always worth your time unless you really want to put lots of effort, time, and potentially money into them. But I think the biggest thing for start stop, and then I'll touch on number of times per week, but is that people engage with people, not logos. And that's like always my biggest takeaway from LinkedIn is that you still have to post those things, it's those touches, right? But people engage with people, not logos. So a lot of times I use our LinkedIn as kind of a means of for other people to share. And I know there's some conversations about like reposting with thoughts don't always get a lot of traction. And I think that's something you have to really test internally for yourself. But as far as engagement every week, when I came into this company, and like I mentioned earlier, there was a huge focus on follower count. And so they were posting multiple times per day, every day. And I feel like I needed to pull that back quite a bit to kind of like reset, because sometimes almost you can reset your algorithm, if you will, by if you don't post as much as often, then people are going to see it when you do. But that only works for a certain amount of time. Eventually, once you kind of hit a sweet spot with that, I feel like then you can up your amount of posting again. So we're currently in the process of increasing our amount per week to daily as far as weekdays, but not necessarily on the weekdays. We're trying to post 5 to 6 times a week, just for those constant touches, but really mixing it up. You know, we're not posting more than one specific product feature. Maybe we're posting a product feature, maybe an industry specific post, maybe an event promotion for an event 3 months from now, maybe for an event next week, maybe a webinar, and trying to really keep it mixed up. I try not to post anything too product heavy or too logo specific, more than 2 or 3 times a week, because I don't feel like they perform.
super interesting. I hope everyone's like taking frantic notes here because the nuggets that you guys are sharing today is really, really great. And I think we all kind of feel it. And this kind of helps us benchmark too on, okay, I'm seeing this or I'm not seeing this. So uh, fab ideas. And then finally,
One of the
if you had a,
I was just going to say there was a comment in the thing that I found was interesting. The more you post on LinkedIn, the more you get out of it. We post every day and get 10,000 plus impressions per month. I was just wondering on that, is that 10,000 impressions like per post or in total? Just because if you're posting, once a day, I would expect, 10,000 impressions seems normal. If we post about 3 times a week, and I get anywhere from 2 to 4,000 impressions per post, right? So that would be more than 10,000, obviously, for posting every day. So kind of just, again, quality over quantity. If you're posting every day, just kind of trying to figure that one out. Looks like for all of us. Okay.
And I don't think the algorithm is also one size fits all. I think, like I said, some of our companies might be a little bit more boring than other people's companies, and some of our content might
For
not
sure.
be as engaging. So I think you really have to find where you're at with that, and whether you're posting as your personal or maybe you own your own business, you're going to post differently if you own your own business than if you're an ISV who's selling a software product, right? And I think you have to kind of test it out. You have to track your metrics. You have to try different things. And most of the time you really have to convince your execs to let you try different things and say, I'm gonna stop posting 5 times a week and you guys are all gonna be really happy if I do it, but not right away. So I think it's
Yeah.
just, finding that sweet spot of what works for your company and finding some accountability for yourself to say, I'm going to try something and I'm going to take full accountability if it doesn't work, and be willing to kind of make those adjustments if it doesn't. So, and I think for different people, different things. So, I think test it out is the biggest, I guess my biggest start would be to don't be afraid to test things out.
Love that. And I think it's so true in marketing. It's to be able to build that credibility for yourself and ownership of like, not crazy, gonna try this. Here's how long I'm gonna try it for, and give them that measurement of, for 3 months, I'm gonna do this. You're gonna think it's very scary, and that's normal. But at the end of the 3 months, we'll have an action plan of, okay, yay, high five, or didn't work. Okay, on to the next thing. But I think it's super important that we have that balance of, you got to try new things, and things will be scary, and convincing management that it's okay to be scared, I think is a super important part of our roles in these companies. So use that as everyone's mantra for the week coming up. So 5 minutes left. Here we go. Okay. Future trends. If you had a crystal ball, where do you see social media going for the rest of the year? What are some things that you've seen coming up that you think are important that people jump on this bandwagon? Amma, let's finish off.
I it's definitely like a love-hate relationship, but I think AI is becoming more and more prevalent, and we need to learn how to utilize it as a tool instead of, the fear of AI replacing all marketing jobs. But I think using it as a tool is something that if you're not already doing it, you should be doing it. And I think making sure also you're not just posting AI content, because I see a lot of that nowadays, but making sure you're using it as a tool, as an outline, as a inspiration, but not as the end all be all. And I think that's the biggest trend. And sometimes I love it and sometimes I hate it, but I think it's really great for helping you strategize and come up with new ideas. So I would say if you're not already on it, probably should be on it. And video, we talked about it today, but I do feel like video is going to be the king pretty soon if it's not already. Attention spans are shrinking. I think long posts are going away again. For a couple years they were reigning supreme. I think long posts are going slowly away. Attention spans are getting smaller. So I think that those are going to be my biggest things to look out for in the next couple of years.
No, very true. And I hope everyone's still been paying attention for this full hour here. So Ben, take us home. What does your crystal ball say for the future of social media?
Yeah, I've talked a lot about the short form video, kind of like we talked about. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. And then from a LinkedIn standpoint, I'm kind of more anti AI on that type of stuff, just because I feel like LinkedIn's been flooded with a bunch of stuff, right? I find myself scrolling past more and more stuff every day, and the authenticity, I think, is going to continue to win. I think using AI for, maybe helping with grammar and things like that is totally okay. But I've seen so many posts 100% written by AI. And the more LinkedIn's flooded with that, the more it's going to lose as a platform, because it's going to get people to disengage. So it'll be interesting to see what LinkedIn does with AI and governance around like being able to post that. I already know that you're not going to get the impressions if you copy and paste from Copilot or Chat GPT or something like that, right? So that'll be the most interesting trend in my opinion. But I feel like to get in front of it and beat it is keep being authentic, keep doing short form, and have that unique voice, and that'll win forever, no matter what happens with technology.
Hallelujah. Really, I think authenticity is such a big piece of where we're going in this brave new world. So thank you, all of you, for taking the time today to let us learn from you and see what you guys are doing and benchmark off of that. I think that's such a tricky part in our little family of an industry is okay, we can find that information for how many lawnmowers someone sells, but for ERP software, it's a little trickier. So thank you again so much for all of this. And my shameless plug, please join us next month in April when we're going to be talking about why can't I just buy a list? You know, I think we all know it's a no-no, but we don't always listen to what we have to say. So how do we maintain a database? How do we use it effectively? You know, I think that's going to be another hot topic for us. So April 29th, because we're in the middle of event season. So you might have to wait a little longer for the next one, but we hope to see you there April 29th. I beg at the end of every session as well, if you guys want to be a member of our community, want to be a panelist, write a blog, or, you know, start a book club. I keep maybe one day this will happen. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are happy to watch our little strong but mighty community grow. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good weekend. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Oh.